My friend Josh here, everybody, is real excited about the topic today because he started telling me about it.
Ooh,
And I said, let's save it for the pod, Josh.
can't say it's a hot topic.
Okay.
Hot would imply it's like happening. Well, yeah, it does happen. Yeah, it's hot. It's hot for probably all of us.
So hot right now.
Real hot.
Real hot right now.
I'm gonna say hot again.
Yeah. All
What's
right.
the topic?
How to check in with your child when they do not want you to check in with them,
Yeah.
most likely.
Yeah, it could be specific just to us. The other parent maybe, or their sibling friend.
Oh gosh,
Could be.
are you trying to push my buttons like with my 7-year-old daughter?
Yeah.
It's like I'll only talk to mom, dad, and I don't want to
Well,
talk to you.
it's relevant.
Yeah.
It's relevant. We'll get to it. Inevitably, we get to Dan's situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, do we have any like big wins? Any parenting wins?
Well, I would say I don't know if this is a parenting win or if it's circumstance, but you and I are both a little giddy because we're going on a big
Oof.
guys trip that we're real geeked out about. And I feel like well, all my kids are super excited, which is I love to see.
For our trip?
Yeah, so for you pretty good parents out there that don't know, we go to the WGA. It's a big deal. Maybe you've heard of it.
What's WGA stand for?
The world's greatest athlete.
Whoa,
Yeah,
the
that's pretty-
world.
So it's just a bunch of our dumb buddies, and we do dumb things like throw a football in a trash can because that's how old we are.
No routes.
Yeah, so stuff like that. But anyways, but like the kids were super, they're like, "Oh my gosh, Dad, I can't believe your WGA weekends! So excited for you!"
Yeah.
And then Carly, who, my 7-year-old daughter, she was just been overly like affectionate and,
Hmm.
was just like, Dad, I want you to tuck me in. I want you to wake me up in the morning. I want you to do breakfast. Like, let's,
Wow.
we had a little dance session this morning. So, um, I
Yeah.
don't think it's a parenting win. It might just be, just enjoy the moment win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the same with my 12-year-old son, Isaiah. He probably gave me like 10 hugs this
Hmm.
morning and just wanted to express that he's going to miss me a lot. And it's 4 days,
Hmm.
but in the middle of their school week and like, missed a couple soccer games. It's nice to be missed. It's nice to be loved.
Yeah.
Inevitably, the older they get, we get less hugs and kisses.
Yeah.
So we got to soak it up while we can.
Well, in our last episode, we talked about, I think you had a term for it for like a certain type, especially with moms,
Oh, mom guilt.
the mom guilt, right?
Yeah. I
So
don't think there is a dad guilt.
yeah, there's not. But like Libby went on a girls trip just last month, and I feel like the kids were equally excited for her too. So just trying to say, pretty good parents,
Yeah.
go take care of el numero uno,
You
because I
got
like
it
to say that, and
every episode.
I think your kids are gonna like it, right?
It's good example. Good. It's a good example to set that
Yeah,
we have friends also. We like to have fun. Everyone is better off when they play and act silly. So go do that
yeah,
reasonably, responsibly.
yeah.
That's,
Well, I'll
those
take
are our
both of those
guardrails.
as wins, Josh. All right, well, let's dive in. So, how to check in with your child when they don't want to talk? Pretty sure we've all been there before. I know I have.
Yeah. There's no way a parent hasn't been in that situation. Um, yeah, that's the what. The unresponsive, non-communicative. Um, they are dealing with something, right? They're tired, they're moody, they're sad, they're hurt, they're grinding on something, and they're not ready to talk to us. Um, that's the what, and everyone knows what that's like, and all different ages. Our level of appreciation and respect for that needs to gradually increase the older they get. So, like a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, we're not going to give them as much space and time to sort their stuff out. One, they don't need it compared to, like, let's say a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old.
Hmm.
But generally, what they need is probably more assistance in their current moment, where a older kid doesn't need that assistance, and like the timing is really important. But the bigger piece in this, I guess we'll probably get into the why. So the what, non-communicative, non-responsive, they're not interested, they're cold shouldering us. what happens to the parent? Well, one, our feelings get hurt because we want to be helpful. And once our feelings are hurt, if we're not super aware or mindful, we can become controlling or demanding and assume that because we're the parent and they're struggling, like they have to talk to us. Um, no, they don't. Again, if well, not again, if you put yourself in their shoes, how do we respond when someone tells us we have to talk to them? When we're stressed, sad, confused, tired, imagine what it's like for someone to say, "You have to talk to me."
Mhm.
I mean, I'd be like, "No, I don't," and get away from me. I'll talk to you when I'm ready. If I want to talk to you at all.
It's funny because I just did that, 3 nights ago. It's great. Went
Oh,
over great.
yeah, those were your words,
Yeah.
huh?
Well, and I think it's so easy for parents to do so our oldest is 13, right? Right in that sweet spot of the teenage years,
Yeah,
going on 14. And a little tiff broke out between him and his little sister, and we're all trying to have like some good family time. It's like seemed like the whole week hadn't gone by with no family time. And something happened, is like, fine, I'll just leave, you know.
like the home,
Well, no,
just
just like
packed up.
the area was gonna go
Oh,
downstairs,
okay,
right?
okay,
And so, it probably wasn't great of me, but I was like, "No, you have to go." He goes, "No, I'm leaving." I said, "Well, you have to come and like talk to us and tell me why," you know? And I just didn't let him do it. And it ended up being okay, but in the time it was probably kind of a shitty thing to do. I don't know. Like I didn't like respect his space. I was just
yeah,
like, "No, this is our family time and it's so important and you can't just walk out of here." So,
yeah. If it, yeah, in that case, it doesn't sound like it was definitively bad or wrong. Maybe it worked out really well. If the kid, if Judd in this case got it became more upset, then you'd say you squeeze that out of them versus de-escalating it.
mhm.
And we're going to say de-escalation probably every podcast, just like take care of numero uno, because it's so relevant to being a healthy human and being a good
Mhm.
parent. The lessons that you want to teach Judd or have him exercise are more likely to sink in the calmer he is. So if he was able to get to that point and grasp the lesson or experience resolution or reconciliation, you'd say, great. If he wasn't, then you'd say, you should have given him space and time and talked about it in an hour
Mhm.
after he got away from the stimuli, the trigger, had a chance to like reset and calm down, and then say, how could we have done that differently? How could we do that better next time?
Yeah.
That's all you really want in the end. If you can get that in the moment, okay. If you can't, wait for it, and it's still better. It's still good to get it at the end. But the key is to respect their like human, I don't know, dignity
Mhm.
and need to sort things out and make sense of things. And it's easy for parents to assume we know what's best for them and that we can help them, and we're going to make that happen even if they don't want to.
And that's exactly what I did. I was like, I know what's best. I know we only have like an hour of time before everybody has to go to bed. I forced the situation. And a little side note, I think there's a lot of pros and cons to when parents are on the same page with things. So, for example, we try to be on the same page with de escalation.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said what I said, Libby just goes, "Are you below a 5?"
Oh,
And I was like, "Damn it. Damn it, Libby."
using your own podcast against you.
And I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Touche. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Tell them I'm a
I'm at a 6 at least."
7.5 and it's rising.
So yeah, de-escalation.
We don't want to make it about us. We want to be about what's the lesson and what are the ideal, optimal circumstances and emotions to bring about that outcome. And
Mhm,
so, don't get if your feelings are hurt, you want to be mindful of that. Acknowledge it's not about your feelings. It's not about our feelings as the parent. They matter, but not nearly as much as the desired outcome. And so, in this case, you want to Judd to de-escalate and find some good resolution with he and Carly. Uh, the timing of that might not matter. Your emotions about it are probably misleading and inflate the situation, make it more urgent than it really is,
mhm,
and compromise resolution. The older Judd is, the more likely that's the case. The younger, the more quickly we can resolve things and the more parental intervention we have. So it's this inverse relationship. If you look at the map, the older they get, the more time we need to give them and the more respect we need to give them. The younger they are, the more quickly we can intervene and in some cases require demand. If they're like 2 or 3, we're like, nope, you're coming with me and that's what we're doing.
Mhm.
They're 5, they're 7, they're 8, they're 10, they're 15 now. It's like, oh, adjust it a little bit and teach them that it's okay for them to get in touch with themselves and their own feelings, bring themselves down. We've talked about de-escalation a ton and emotional regulation for our children. Where's your safe space? Do you need to talk to so and so? Do you need to be alone? Do you need to go outside? All that. Uh, you want them to feel confident that they can manage their own emotions, which is compromised if we're forcing that in the moment,
Mhm.
just because we're uncomfortable or we're offended or our feelings are hurt.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the why it's important. I mean, I've touched on a little bit, but it's important to know when to push and when to hold back. So the push would
Yeah.
be what you did. This is, to say dangerous isn't appropriate, but this is urgent. This is important. We can't wait. This needs to be dealt with right now. Few situations fall into that category. Most of them are, you can hold back, you can wait, see what that's like. See
Yeah.
what happens in like 10 minutes or an hour or the next day. If they need space to regulate, you could jack up that process by forcing a conversation when they're not ready. And you're poking at the bear, you're poking at this volcano when if you let it settle, there's less of a reaction. You poke
Mhm.
now and you could get sprayed and then they get more in trouble because now you're even more offended.
Right.
And it's like, well, you're causing that. Like you're threatening consequences at 10:30 at night when you already know they're tired and
Mhm.
they're not able to regulate and you're setting them up to like risk more and to risk blowing up even more and then getting in more trouble. That's not fair or wise.
Mhm.
Saying, "Hey, stop it. Just let them get through this situation. Get them to bed and dress it the next day." It could just be as simple as everyone was up too late and all you can do is get to bed.
Mhm.
But the space and the time to regulate is age dependent. The younger they are, the less time and space they need. The older they are, typically the more time and space they need to regulate. And it's important to like highlight that, like probably afterwards, because they don't want to hear some dumb parenting lecture about you need to regulate right now. They're probably gonna be like, "Fuck off."
Yeah.
But if you said, "Hey, seemed like last night like you weren't ready to talk. Um, are you feeling different now?" Or I wanted to give you your space. Or, hey, in a situation like that yesterday, what do you think's a reasonable amount of time? Or like, what can we try differently? Do you want to take like a walk? Do you want to just like go to your room and then you stay in there till you're ready? Or what if I checked in like a half hour? And again, you keep having those talks and adjusting as they get a little bit older. So it's working for both parties.
Mhm.
They might need the support in the conversation and would benefit from you pushing through their resistance. Like, this is where it gets a little tricky, and you have to have that discernment to know, is it a false front? Is it a false block? They actually want you to push through and like hug them and ask tough questions because they want to talk, but they don't want to say they want to talk.
Right.
That is the case sometimes. If you you can detect that by like, let's say, sitting next to them and giving it a little bit of time and say, don't ask them if they want to talk in this situation because they've already communicated or expressed they don't want to talk. But something about it is telling you they actually do. They just don't want to say that. Okay. So what I would do is just sit next to them, not in a creepy fashion and stare at them, but letting them know I am here. I can sense that you want to talk, but I'm not going to force you to talk and I'm not going to like put a spotlight on the tough topic yet. Um, I would if it were a situation with my daughter, this is less likely to happen with my son, but my daughter who's 15. And last night at the dinner table, she actually didn't want to talk and she was in a bad mood. And I could tell. And I wanted the dinner to go well, but I knew I couldn't make it go well by just making her talk.
Right.
And so I let her sit there awkwardly and have her space. It didn't last long. But what I would probably do if it weren't at the dinner table is I'd probably put my hand on her back. If I could tell she was dealing with something and she wasn't talking about it, and was pretty non-responsive to my questions, like, "Hey, it seems like you're upset," or "How are you doing?" or "Do you want to talk?" And it's like, no, fine, I don't know." I don't know to me is an indication that she might want to talk and she's not definitively closed off. And so I would sit there and put the time in to wait until she's ready. And I also might like rub her back to like enhance the opening up process by saying, I have no agenda other than being helpful, and you can direct this conversation. I'm just here to help. And I communicate that with body language and just space and not talking.
Mhm.
Most parents talk too much and mess it up uh, because the energy is too directing or too like demanding, and the child like doesn't know exactly how they feel or think, and they're getting peppered with questions. That's too much. So err on the side of not talking but being close, unless their body language is clearly saying, "Get away from me. I need to be alone."
Mhm. I literally just heard today, on another podcast about how to, like, come in to say, I'm here to learn and or just or to understand,
Yeah.
right? And not have this feeling like I gotta get my agenda across,
Yes.
and,
It's just it goes beyond just our relationship with our kids.
kinda well, yeah, and
Any
this was
relationship.
for anybody. This was like any conversation,
Yeah, it's
right?
so it like a put yourself in the receiver's end or in the
Mhm.
receiver's seat. If someone says like, "I'm just trying to learn or understand where you're coming from or what you're thinking or how this was for you," versus, "We need to talk about this subject.
Mhm.
I need to know what you think about this." The energy is significantly different. One is soft and
Yeah.
collaborative, and the other one is demanding and slightly disrespectful or accusatory, and it's likely to put someone on defensive.
Right.
It's a simple different selection of words, not surprisingly, opens someone up or closes someone down.
Well, and when you said energy, that was such a light bulb that was also mentioned in this, and they were saying how, what if you went into a conversation and beforehand thought, I wonder what they will perceive my energy to be? You know what I mean? Like putting yourself in their shoes first and being like, do you think they will, like, is the type of energy I'm coming off just accusatory? Is it angry? Am I, at a 10,
Yeah.
or am I like at a 2 and I'm calm and I'm inquisitive and I'm happy and I'm putting out good vibes? And, I think that energy goes a long way. And I, like you've
It's
always
huge.
said, what is it, like nonverbal?
90%
90%
of
of communication
communication
is
is
nonverbal.
tone and body language.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter what you 90% of it doesn't even matter what you say. It's the energy you're giving off, which everyone can recognize and say they know what that feels like to receive calm, comforting energy versus attacking, demanding, disrespectful energy.
Mhm.
And when we're not mindful, when we're unconscious parents, whatever we're ruminating on or whatever we're bringing into the situation is likely to be determining or directing our energy. And then it doesn't go well. And then we get pissed and then we start threatening consequences. Like you're failing to recognize, like you're sabotaging this whole scene
Mhm.
just with your energy or your inability to calculate their energy and switching from on the offensive to the defensive or to be receptive versus to be pushing an agenda. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
they're upset. Let them give them space to like unload it, teach them. But if you don't control your own energy, there isn't any space for it. And it just bounces off of one another and escalates.
Mhm.
Like if someday I'm sure we'll have like, I shouldn't say I'm sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if we had goggles that we could actually put on and we're literally able to see the
The
tone
tone
of
energy.
energy
Yeah.
and what it does interactive with like our space, well, like our own energy when we walk through a forest versus a noisy subway, or an energy with a person who's calm and safe and giving it off versus a person who's like threatening or fearful or trying to control. Everyone knows what that feels like, and no wonder we feel it. It's like a real thing. It's passing through the molecules and the atoms like in our body and through this to the other person, and understanding like that's a real thing. That's like your superpower as a human, not just as a parent, of how to influence circumstances to go in a way that's favorable for everybody.
Mhm.
It's not favorable if you're just trying to prioritize your own outcome. But if you said, I want them to feel good too when they walk away from this, instantly your energy shifts to negotiation and peaceful resolution and collaboration versus a narrow desired outcome that I need to see come to fruition. I'm going to be controlling, manipulative, defensive. That energy sucks for collaboration and feels bad and oftentimes escalates in a close, intimate relationship.
Yeah, I just wanna call out what you said there about beforehand, you said intentionally thinking about what desired outcome you want for them, right? And it's just like, I want them to be happy, I want them to, either be able to process what they're going through or learn or whatever, and not
Yeah.
thinking about that agenda of, as a parent, "Oh, let me drill in and just,
They
shine
need
shine a
to know, they
flashlight."
need to think, they need to behave.
Right.
But you're right. If you said, "What do I want the outcome to be for my child? How do I want this to end tonight? I want them to sleep well. I
Mhm.
want them to know they're loved. I want them to feel calm." Your energy and your parenting would significantly shift. But that's conscious parenting versus unconscious parenting.
Right. Intentful parenting is what
And
you went to.
when we have that intention of, I want them to be happy and healthy and regulating themselves, all of our agenda, not all of our agenda, but it's just significantly shifts to like, oh yeah, that's right. That's what I want for them. But it's like we're in a daze
Mhm.
or we're in a coma or we've been hypnotized to be like the unconscious dogmatic parent, and we're doing it just like without thinking. And then we justify, well, I'm the parent and I know best, and then you were being disrespectful, so this is the way it goes. Like, hold on, hold on. How do you want this to end up, though? Wouldn't you like them to sleep well and you to sleep well? Well, yeah. Wouldn't you like them to think they can talk to their mom or dad as life gets tough, and their mom or dad's reasonable as they learn things? Yes. Well, then don't escalate it. Be the peacemaker without sacrificing the lesson. And sometimes the lesson requires consequences or changes. The peacemaker doesn't have to be someone who's always just giving in to someone's request. That's a common misbelief.
Alright, so I'm reordering my how here. So I'm saying number 1 is the intent, like, what do you want the intent for? So, like, you notice something's wrong with your child,
Yeah.
right? And, like, they
Observe.
don't observe, right?
Yeah, I'm
So,
sorry.
like,
I didn't give the like observe, analyze, act, follow up.
oh,
So
well, I'm just jumping the gun here.
I
Okay,
know.
perfect.
You're right though. You observe by like, are they upset? Are they sad? Are they tired? Are they mad at me? Are they mad at their friends? Are they overwhelmed? Are they confused? Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't know, but we want to pay attention and say, it looks like you are. Is that accurate? Well, I don't know. Oh, okay. Don't don't talk too much, but it's like recognize, well, they don't really know right now how they feel. That's fine. Sometimes I don't know how I feel. I need to like check in and like explore that.
Mhm.
Let them know that that's okay, that they don't know. They don't have to know every second. And knowing that they don't know is actually better than just walking around uh, dazed and confused, running into things because they're not paying attention, right? It's okay that they don't know, but it's also appropriate to explore what it looks like for them to find out what's going on.
Mhm.
So the observation is just using all of your senses to collect the data of what they might be going through. And then you want to analyze that. This happens pretty quickly sometimes, obviously. And it's like, okay, well, what do I know? Are they tired? Are they sick? Was it a school day? Were they with certain friends? Was there a test? Did they have an argument with their sibling or the other parent? Like, this is the analyzing piece. And there's obviously going to be some consistent themes. Like late at night, you're like, well, they're probably tired. Um, it could be that time of the month for our daughter. It could be the significant event with my son and this thing he had coming up. Just trying to connect the dots to have more understanding of what could be influencing their emotional state.
Mhm.
And then the acting part of this, or the action part of it. Action could be walk away, let them go to their room, let them have their space. This is the I call it action, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're doing
Could it be
something.
wait?
It could be
Like,
wait.
just waiting
Yeah.
patiently, like, let them walk away. Maybe it takes 1 or 2 days, maybe it takes 10 minutes.
I've given my daughter space countless times and pleasantly surprised with a text message within the day or the latest the next day that said, "I'm sorry, I was in a mood. You didn't do anything wrong. I had to figure it out," or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like so rewarding as a parent to know that they're learning and that she recognized my attempt to help and recognized she was being uh, disrespectful or not kind, and that apologized for it. And our relationship was only strengthened during her emotional storm versus complicated during her emotional storm.
Mhm.
That's the goal. I'm like, I want her to pay attention and learn how she's handling herself and how that could impact the people around her. And I compromise that by pushing too aggressively into it. Or I help her by communicating, and I'll get into more of the how you would say these things, but I give her space to do it, knowing where I am. Maybe I'm just right here next to her or behind that door, but the door is open, it's not locked. But I want her to decide when she's ready for that.
Mhm.
She feels empowered. She feels supported, but doesn't feel forced or controlled to like make things, like to figure things out in some sort of timeline.
Yeah.
Um, I got a few more of the whys real quick though. They might need the support and the conversation, so we do push through their resistance. That's if you feel really confident that they want to talk and need to talk, but they can't say it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the case. They haven't left. They're still here even though they could leave. Ah, okay, I'm thinking, well, maybe they need me to ask some more questions. They do want to talk, but they don't have the courage or the vulnerability to say it. We know what that's like. Sometimes we feel the pressure to talk and we know we need to talk, but it's too vulnerable to say I need to talk. But if someone just initiates the conversation kind of like smoothly and graciously and gets it going, it's enough for us to open up and like get it out. That's often going to be the case with our kids. They're not going to be as practiced and comfortable with vulnerability. Not that parents are necessarily,
Right.
but even less so for a kid. And assume they might need to talk, but they might not say that. They might not act like they don't want to talk. But you can pick up on body language or some other indicator that says they would have left and they would have done this if they weren't interested in talking. Maybe I'll probe just a little bit,
Mhm.
like, well, and this is what I would do. And notice my facial expressions and my body language, okay? Uh, I mean, was it like school related? No. Okay. Is it like something with me? No. Okay. Friend stuff? Yeah. Okay. Do you want to like talk about the friend stuff? I don't know. Okay. Did it happen at school, after school? Pause. I'm probing, but not machine gun style. And if you notice my tone is soft, my facial expressions make me look like an idiot, like I don't know anything.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, you maybe had a poop, but I wasn't sure. If you can't see, listener, that's what I got, but I don't know. That could just be me.
A real worried,
Real
strained look.
worried, real
Oh God, is
worried.
this coming out right now? It's expressing, I don't have an agenda I'm forcing upon you. I'm here to
Yeah,
learn.
yeah.
That is,
That
I
was
wanna
the other one I got out of it too.
learn, not I have to poop.
Yeah,
Versus I know what's going on. I'm gonna help you find it out and figure
right.
it out, and I'm here to tell you. That energy is not what we want.
Mhm.
We want to help them get in touch with their stuff and we're facilitating it. So be a facilitator of their learning experience. Sometimes that's give them space, sometimes that's probe. So I would continue this conversation, go back into this conversation. It's like, oh, it was with friends. Oh, it was after school. Okay. Well, have you addressed it the way you want to address it? No, I don't know what to say. Okay. Do you feel comfortable sharing the circumstance with me so we could brainstorm how you could respond? Yeah. Okay. Well, and then likely she'd be like, here's the text and here's what happened. And now we're in it and we're
Mhm.
collaborative, we're neutral, and we get to problem solve it together. It took maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes to get to like the
Yeah.
meat of the work. And I could have easily missed that opportunity and squashed it had I just like peppered her with questions or communicated a sense of urgency that then turned her off. And it was just too much given the fragility of her emotional state. But that was going off of the indication that she wanted to talk, but wasn't ready yet or needed some like prompting and a little bit of facilitation.
Mhm.
If she doesn't want to talk and the body language is more heated and more like more of a disgusted, guarded look, then I immediately go to space and time. Um, and then I want to say, I want to talk to you. I want to be helpful, but it looks like you need space. And then I would communicate, I'm available if and when you want to talk. And I might check in a little bit, but I still won't push.
Yeah.
And that way they feel empowered. They get to be in control of their emotion, but I've also communicated my desire to be helpful and where I am.
Mhm.
Like maybe not literally, but figuratively, I'm available to talk. I'm going to go do dishes or go for a walk or do this thing, but I'm totally available when you're ready to talk about this. And sometimes just that, saying that is enough to engage the conversation. That knowing they're not being forced, but they're being invited or I'm available is enough for them to say, well, I'm dealing with this thing. And like, and then in your head, like, oh, here we go,
Mhm.
game on. And then you quickly move into the collaborative facilitation, not the lecture, not the threats, not the should do, shouldn't do.
Yeah.
A lot of parents lecture. No one wants to be lectured to.
We should probably just make a blanket statement for no lecturing.
Never lecture.
Never lecturing.
If you have to tell them something that sounds like a lecture, say, hey, I'm going to share something, and I know it's probably going to sound like a typical adult or parent lecture, but I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
That makes it more likely that they're going to receive it versus they're forced to sit there in this lecture hall
Mhm.
of mom or dad's space, and they're just like, I've heard it before. You're just talking at me. This is not interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that, and I guess just to go back, I loved how you said to let them know kind of where you are, right? So it's like you're giving them space, they're empowered, but no, and I've heard that term lighthouse before, right? Just being a lighthouse.
yeah,
Like, hey, this is where I am. I just kind of like that metaphor.
yeah. Be available, but don't force it.
Right. As opposed to like shining a spotlight on them and like that
Yeah.
interrogating type feel.
Well, and the other point I was going to make was you want to make sure we're not prioritizing. We want to make sure we're not prioritizing our own agenda over their well-being or their need to learn how to self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're mindful in that moment, we'd be able to detect, am I pushing my own agenda or am I letting this unfold in a way that maybe they needed to unfold?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not harming anyone, then there's no urgency. Very few situations are them going to actually be harming someone that requires an urgent response on our part. Um, but we want to deprioritize our agenda, our emotional response, our emotional reaction over the bigger desired outcome. I want
Mm-hmm.
them to be calm, know they're loved, feel comforted, confident, sleep well. Okay, well, that might not happen for an hour or two. That might not actually happen till tomorrow. Don't mess it up by forcing this thing because you feel uncomfortable and you're disregarding how they feel.
And just to note what you just said there, those were your personal parenting intentions. that you just rattled off,
Yes.
we talked about those weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just cool to hear you like recall that, like, oh yeah, what is my grounding parenting intentions? This is what I want for my child, right?
Yeah.
And just to
I
keep
want
that
them to
as a
know they're loved. I want
yeah.
them to love themselves. I want them to sleep well, be happy, and know how to navigate life. Uh, and that's a journey. It's going to
Yeah.
take time. I can't let the urgency of the moment drive me to like force something and then compromise their maturation.
Hmm.
Let's get into like maybe more of the how. So observe, analyze, act, and follow up. I didn't really touch on the follow up, but it is. Is it in 10 minutes? Is it an hour? Is it the next day? Is it a few days later? It depends on their age and the severity of the situation. Um, you could say, hey, it seems like you need to be alone. I'm going to leave you alone, but I like to check in like an hour. The older they are, a little bit more of the time. The younger they are, less time. So it's a 5-year old, it's 5-10 minutes.
Hmm.
You know, it's a 10-year old, maybe it's a half hour. It's a 15-year old or 18-year old, it's maybe before bed or in a couple hours. Or it could be a couple of days. It depends on the situation. But there's that time relationship with their age of what a follow-up or check-in looks like. And then ultimately, if your desire is for them to learn how to navigate life and be healthy, following up is the assurance that they're learning the right lessons. What did you learn? And that sounds a little too lectury, but like, how was that for you? Any important takeaways? Is there anything I can do differently next time? Are you going to like set different boundaries with this friend? You can ask some questions that insinuate the lesson that hints towards the lesson, like the boundaries thing. Like after thinking about it, do you want to put any like boundaries in with that friend?
Hmm.
Um, depending on how old they are, that might make sense. It might not make sense. But the follow up kind of completes the whole package of you navigated that storm with them. You modeled what it looks like to regulate in the middle. You empowered them to have space and time to make sense of it. And then you follow up to make sure like the lesson is a good takeaway that they can apply moving forward.
So can we go back to the lesson part? So we first observe, right? Then we analyze, then we take action. And that first action may be just to wait,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now they open up and they say, yeah, actually, Dad, I really do want to talk about this. Um, what advice do you have then for that actual meat of the lesson and diving in? And you kind of reference a little bit, like you talking to Justice about how you kind of did it together and stuff. But can you elaborate more on that specific piece once they do say, yep, I do want to talk now?
Yeah. Go
That
slow.
piece. Okay.
Be the facilitator, not the lecturer. Uh, you're along for the ride more than you are to make it go in a particular direction. That's going to give an energy. That has energy implications. If you're there to facilitate and learn and explore with them, that energy is going to feel safer and calmer and more collaborative. If you're taking the seat as it needs to go a particular way and you're oddly continue to direct it in a particular direction, that energy is going to feel less safe. It's going to feel more controlled and they're more likely to feel defensive. So you want to be the facilitator of their experience, and good facilitators usually just ask lots of
That's
questions.
what I was gonna say is inquire. Like I love the word
Yeah,
inquiry, right? Just
I'd like to know more about that. Tell me more. How does that feel? What do you think of that? Have you had that experience before? Was that the desired outcome? Do you feel good about how you handled it? I've asked that to my daughter 100 times.
mhm.
How do you feel about how you've handled that? I might have the thought you handled that poorly.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that unless the timing was ideal. Otherwise, I would say, how do you think you've handled that? Do you feel good about it?
Mhm.
If she feels like that's a safe, neutral question and I'm not cornering her and setting her up, she's likely to give an honest answer. And there's been times where she says, no, not really. And then I would say, what does that mean? What would you do differently? Just just gently ask a question that's going in the direction that you feel like is good for them, but like a 2 out of 10 in terms of intensity.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess when I said that word, like inquire, right? Inquiry. I think there's different levels of that. Like if you think about someone being interrogated
Yeah.
in that intense, like good cop, bad cop feeling,
Yeah.
versus just more curiosity and letting them know that they're seen, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like, oh, I see you're going through a hard time. How does that make you feel? Oh, I
Yeah.
see you m- took an action to your, like, do you feel like that was the right action? Like,
Yeah.
did that work out
Think
well?
Oprah versus,
Right. There we go.
detective.
Yeah.
Like, I saw Oprah was interviewing, uh, Lisa Marie Presley's daughter last
Okay.
night. And, well, one, they're, like, in all white, so it's, like, super soft, like, angelic, like, kind of feel.
Mhm.
But Oprah's, like, demeanor is so dialed, so safe, so loving. It's like
Safe. I like that too.
she's, like, hugging you while she asks you questions almost,
Mhm.
right? Think, how do you ask this question that might go in a learning direction, but in a safe way? And I would say, well, what do you think about that? I ask questions that make them regurgitate it and process it and think critically versus just jumping all over it with the answer. Most parents want to give the answer because they care so much about their kid. They want to waste no time giving them the solution,
Mhm.
but it's not absorbed as well. In some cases, not at all. If they're not actually, if it's not resonating with them or they're not processing it internally, it won't stick as well. But if you said, how do you feel about how you handle that? Now they have to reflect and think it through versus me telling her how she should have handled it.
Yeah.
It's an entirely different door to go through. In most of the cases, the door's closed if I'm telling her how she should do it. Door's wide open and she's more introspective when I ask her without an agenda. I mean, I have an agenda, but without controlling it, how do you think you handle that?
Well, and if you think about it, so your original intention here was to enable your daughter to be able to self-regulate, right? And
Yeah.
kind of do these things on her own. So it sounds like what you're doing there is you're basically teaching her and then letting her sort of teach you back, as opposed to, like they always say, the best way to learn something is to teach it, right?
Yeah.
So then if you just tell them, well, then like they're not going to
Not
get
going
anything
through the
out. It's not
motions
going
at
through
all.
the motions, right? So I love that
Yeah.
kind of angle of it too. It's like you're literally, these are all teaching moments. And like, what's the best way to teach is like, let them teach you back,
Yeah.
you know?
And asking good questions prompts that
Mm-hmm.
and brings that up.
Yeah.
So the act or the lesson part of it is often accomplished through a conversation and through a lot more inquiry and curiosity than bullet points or lectures. And best, it includes their words and their sentiments about
I like
their
that.
takeaways. And then all you're repeating is what you hear them saying, not what you think they should do or not do.
Yeah.
It sounds like you feel like if you would have done it this way, it would have gone better.
Which again, I guess if you came into that, like we said, to come in with the intention to understand, not to push your agenda, then maybe that's a good follow up for the parents, right? It's like, okay, my intention is to understand
Yes.
my child. And then when you're doing your follow up to be like, how it's like you're following up to, I guess, on your own, on your own self. Am I truly understanding what happened versus me just pushing my agenda?
Yeah. Well, that makes me think of the irony that we typically feel like we're the teacher to our children,
Mm-hmm.
but we're usually better parents if we're the students of our children.
Yeah.
And
Ooh, the pretty good student. Here we go. Here we go. You heard it here first.
and you think about the shift of your focus.
Right?
If you are a student of your child, you're intimately listening and to the details and observing the circumstances and connecting the dots to better understand them, to then to determine what's the best way to help them. But if you're the teacher, you're preoccupied with your delivery and your message and your agenda, and are unobservant to their reality, which could be crucial. Kids' biggest complaint is their parents don't understand them,
Yeah.
hands down.
Isn't there a song? Yeah, parents just don't understand from like the 80s.
Uh,
What is that?
that's Fresh Prince of
Yeah,
Bel Air.
fresh. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
I
Yeah.
Yeah,
Boom.
I
See,
think that's what
parents
it
just
is.
don't understand. Boom.
Uh, it's always been the case. It's again by far the thing I've heard the most is like they just don't get me. They don't understand.
Hmm.
And then what does a moron parent say? I know you better than you know you.
No, there we go.
And I would not say this, but I'm thinking you're a fucking moron.
Hmm.
That's never going to work. Never say that. You might know them better than they know themselves. You never want to act like that. You never say that. That is a closed door. It's an insulting door, right? Imagine someone telling you, whatever their age, I know you better than you know yourself.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing but a bad reaction to that. So, say, I'd like to learn more. I obviously don't know what it's like to be in your skin, in your shoes, in your life. I know what it's like to be in mine, and I can reflect on what it was like to be in that season of your life, but I don't know what it's like to be you.
Hmm.
Parents so desperately want to be helpful that they think they know what it's like to be their kid and fail to calculate the closed response. I'll say it differently, how it shuts the kid down when we tell them we know what they're going through.
Hmm.
No one wants to hear that. That doesn't work very well. Even if we did, it doesn't work very well. What works better is tell me more about what that's like. I'd like to understand what it's like for you to be in that situation. I can guess what it's like for me or remember what it's like for me, but it could be different. That shows we care. When we say, I care about you and I'm going to tell you what to do, it doesn't feel like care.
Hmm.
And feeling is energy, and energy is always going to win over the words. 90% of it's how it feels, 10% is what it actually was. I do care about you. That's why I'm telling you, don't be friends with so and so. That won't work very well. What's going to work very well is that the kind of friendship you want to have? Does that friendship work for you? Is that the kind of friend you would tell your friend to have or shut down?
Hmm.
Right? You might have an agenda, but you're collaborating with them in a safe, non urgent, non directive way. And it's about them learning and making their decisions versus us telling them what to do. The younger they are, it flips. The ratio of us telling them what to do versus them learning or processing is inverse. So the younger they are, the more we tell them, like, no, you don't touch that. No, you don't eat that. No, we don't talk that way. No, we don't throw a fit at the table. I'm picking you up. We're going outside. Um, but they're 17 and they're being a shithead at the table. We can't just pick them up on our shoulder and take them outside. We've got to
Not if
use,
you don't want to throw your back out, Josh. And you
we
know my
know,
L4, L5 goes out real quick.
we know your old
Yeah.
back. Uh, you have to use energy and you got to be more creative to navigate that scenario.
Hmm.
And you can't just use brute force or parental rights. Doesn't work. Whether you're at a restaurant or anywhere, right? So you've got to be able to say, you're upset. I don't know what it's like to be you. If you need time, take it.
Hmm.
Uh, but we're offended usually. Our feelings are hurt or our agenda is being compromised and we're trying to control it. And so we swoop in and do this weird parental thing and
Well, and I
it
think
backfires.
there's a lot of ego there, right? It's like, oh, we're in a public
I don't have
setting and
control of my
look at
family.
this. Look at they're making me look like an idiot.
This
Like
kid's
people think,
disrespecting me in front of everybody.
right,
This
all
can't
that
be
stuff, right?
tolerated. But yeah, you're right. And you're like, well, is that a higher priority than like a positive outcome?
Hmm.
No. When ego's in charge and we're not conscious, we'll act that way. But if we think, I want this to go well and end well, oh, okay, then say, hey, I can tell you're upset. I don't know if it's with me or if it's something I said or did. Um, but do you want to like leave? Do you want to hang out in the car? Do you want to get a different table? Or do you want me to just like give you space?
Hmm.
You're not you're not losing and you're not getting walked on. You're not setting a bad example. You're setting a great example, it looks like, to bring about peace and pave the road for introspection and understanding and a better relationship. it just feels like you're losing this little like battle in this situation, but really you're gaining trust and it's a collaborative negotiation of how to like work through this.
Mhm.
It just requires us to be more mindful.
And if you think about it as your overall goal is what your intentions are for your child,
Yeah.
you're just going through the motions and the steps of going towards that goal. And if you got to take one on the chin and look like an idiot in public, like who cares, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Don't
and
parent with your ego,
yeah,
parent with your heart.
yeah, seriously. Well, Josh, this has been really eye opening for me. I don't know. I'm just so excited. I guess the biggest takeaway I got out of this, I mean, there was a million takeaways. I kept taking a ton of notes, but the biggest one was being a student of your child. That
Yeah.
one just resonated, and I can't wait to just put that little shift into my parenting
Yeah.
of truly being a student of like, oh man, Judd, who are you? Like Tyler, who are you? You know, like Carly, who are you? Just really that inquiry and curiosity of who they are. And I
Yeah.
think, and I can speak well for myself, and I would say probably all my siblings, and we're all in our 40s to 50s, all wishing we probably had that as kids, you
Yeah.
know, and as like my only, uh, I guess announcement to the pretty good parents out there is don't wait for your kids to be 40s and 50s. Like we can just do this now,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
yeah.
I let me two quick tips, okay,
Yeah.
that I didn't really cover well. If your child is adamantly clear or expressive of not wanting to talk, okay, it's okay to have a one-way conversation as long as it's not a lecture. And one-way conversation means we're talking to them, they're not talking back. If you get the sense that they do want to be near you or talk, but they're not ready, it's okay to have a one-way conversation. You go slow, you make hypothetical statements versus definitive you statements. So, for example, it seems like maybe you're upset from the hangout time you have with your friends. You were in a good mood before that, and now you're not. So I'm guessing something happened there. Um, and it's okay to feel bad. It's okay to be mad if you're trying to make sense of it. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. I'm gonna go mow the lawn. I'm gonna go hang out in this room, but I'm available the second you want to talk. Um, you're letting them know that you're available and that it's okay to not talk right now, but you're also giving them a chance to engage by doing one more like kind of check in.
Hmm.
Um, there are times where your son or daughter will be listening to you and engage in the conversation and still not talk, and it'll be evident by their body language or their emotional expression that they are listening and following without communicating. They don't have to talk for it to be an effective exchange. Ideally, you don't lecture, but there are times where you can have a conversation with them and talk hypothetically so they don't feel like you're telling them how their life is going and what they should do, and it still is absorbed. It sounds something like, I'm driving, let's say my daughter's in a mood, um, but I can tell she's not mad at me and she's trying to make sense of it. And I would say, it seems like you're in it. Do you want to talk about it? I don't know. Or no. Okay. Well, I just want you to know that I see you. I want to be respectful of that. Seems like it might have been from like soccer practice. Not sure. But I know sometimes you're really critical of yourself, even when you play well. And I hope that you're not like just being down on yourself right now. It's a beautiful sunset. It's awesome to be in the car with you or listen to good music. So if you need time, that's fine. I also just I don't want you to suffer unnecessarily.
Hmm.
Here's what I did. I gave a life lesson without sounding lectury. I reinforced it by saying it's her space. She doesn't have to talk to me. But I also didn't let her mood run the whole show.
Yeah.
I I kind of reset the stage of like what's the bigger reality? Son and daughter and father in the car, sunset, everything's fine. What's the felt reality? Shitty day, bad practice, I suck at soccer. I don't want her to believe that and mess up the car ride, but I'm not gonna force it. I'm gonna kind of passively, nonchalantly
Mhm.
reset the stage by making a few comments and then back off and then
Yeah.
let it set. And I'd probably turn the music up. I'd probably pick some music I know she likes and I would maybe sing along. Not super aggressive, not cheesy, but like try to change the mood.
Have you heard me sing, Josh?
That's why the kids jump out.
Uh,
If
no,
you
I love that.
if they want to do something weird or awkward, that
Yeah.
could be yeah.
And I feel like I'm with a 13-year-old, we're coming into a lot of one-way convos. So it's going to be definitely sharpening the skill to have that balance
The
of
guardrail, no lecture
no lecture. And I
and
underlined
hypothetical.
that one.
You might be, it's normal, it could be,
Mhm.
versus you are, it is. Like those are
I like
definitive.
the idea too of just taking them completely out of it, where it's like life can be tough, at this
My
time,
brother,
or
when we were
things
going, or
can
when I remember when I
right.
was your age, or I knew a kid, that takes the spotlight off of them,
Hmm.
and but still keeps the lesson and the learning opportunity in the light,
Hmm.
but doesn't make it feel like they're under the microscope.
Yeah. Oh,
There's
that's
a
a great
lot.
tip.
There's so much here,
I know
and I love. We'll keep talking
we
about it,
keep
but you
talking.
can hopefully the pretty good parents out there, you realize there's just this like kind of ninja um nuance to parenting of knowing when to speak and when not to speak, and sometimes the silence is just as powerful, and knowing when to get up, when to interject, when to give them space and walk away.
Hmm.
Hopefully we're able to teach what feels like intuition or discernment through these examples.
So I'm looking at our. So I want to do a quick little recap,
Okay.
right? So we're talking about how to check in with your child when they don't want to talk. This is often when your child's, they are uncommunicative, they are unresponsive. Parents, you can kind of see that they have hurt feelings, right? And so going into the house, I'm trying to think if we have a cool acronym. It looks like it's
Oh,
OAF,
oh,
OAF, OAF. I don't know.
OAOF,
Yeah.
OAOF.
So we have observe, right? So uh, you can just let them know. And I guess you can just observe that it's happening, right? And you can let them know that it's okay. Uh, that they don't know why they're feeling
It's okay
this
not to
way
know.
or not to know or any of those things,
And
right?
it's okay to be mad, sad. It's okay to for all of it.
Yeah,
To not know or to know.
right. And then our A is for analyze, right? Next one is to analyze quickly. What do you know?
Are they tired?
Right.
Is it a tough day? Is it a long day?
Okay.
Something I said.
Then the next one I have is action.
Yeah.
Correct. So action, we talked about maybe the first action is just to wait, right? And you
Yeah.
can kind of decide usually 5-10 minutes for a younger child, could be a couple days, who knows, for an older one. And but you're empowering them, right?
Yeah.
By letting them wait. Then I have the second part of that action is the actual lesson conversation. Some quick tips on that. Go slow, facilitate the conversation, use a lot of inquiry, curiosity,
Be
um,
the student.
be the student.
Sorry, I'm very
Yes,
excited
yeah,
about that.
exactly. I was gonna say their words and be the student, and I love that one. And then the last one is follow up,
Yeah.
right? So,
Nailed it.
oh, that's great. I'm gonna go be a student today, Joshua.
Okay.
So,
I'll be a student of you all weekend.
oh,
Is
thank you.
that weird?
Yeah, it's gonna be.
We're on the same team.
We are
We'll
in the
be
same team.
teammates.
Yeah. Good luck to our WJ World's Greatest. I'm sure the listeners really
It'll
at
be
the edge of their
you'll see
seat
it
to know how this
on
goes.
all the TV channels at the
Yeah.
bottom of the latest scores, I'm
ESPN
sure.
the Ocho. It
Yeah,
might be on. Yeah. But
in another language.
to all you pretty good parents, thank you for listening. If you are listening, that means you care. That means you care about your kids, and that's awesome. Uh, and we just hope that we can all be more intentful with our parenting and above all else, be kind in our parenting, right? And
Yeah.
so, thank you. So, if you did find this at all helpful, please like, please share. We all want to be pretty good parents together.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
yep. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.